Hi, I'm Hayden, the psychologist. I'm a clinical psychologist in South Africa, and I am going to be recording these videos just to give a bit of a clinical description and perhaps some tips from a real psychologist around the COVID-19 21-day lockdown that is currently about to be underway in South Africa. Today is the final day before the lockdown. And clinically speaking, what we are expecting today is quite a lot of people, probably you if you're watching this, feeling a subjective feeling a little bit, quite a lot anxious, a bit of pressure, some panic feelings. Essentially, this is clinically speaking linked strongly to control. Here we have a context where control is shifted quite profoundly. A lot of elements that we are classically in control of, we are no longer in control. One of the key elements of why this anxiety is pulling on us, that is because really fundamentally from unknown element that is to come in the context that we're about to enter. In that sense, quite a helpful tip would be, where possible, to get as much clarity as you can about what is to come, details of what your access will be, clarity that you will not be limited to gain more supplies, really taking on that information. If one accepts it, you will see subjectively that anxiety level lowers. It is really when one doubts, when one is unsure, that the lack of control comes in, the lack of uncertainty, and the anxiety hits. So that is the first tip. The second tip that I will give, essentially at this stage, clinically speaking, we were functioning in a particular context, and we're closing off that context and opening up a new context. So I would strongly suggest really thinking about that. What needs to happen to close this context? Probably most of you have already done this. And what needs to happen to open this context? The new one, the context of being on lockdown for 21 days. In that process, one element that we often forget that I want to highlight today in this first video is that part of this entire process, there is an emotional level at play. On the emotional level, there is particular impacts like the anxiety or the worry that surrounds this entire process. While closing off the context, what's important to do is to actually speak to somebody that you're close to and vent. When I say vent, talk about your subjective experience of closing off the context and your feelings about the new context. Whether it be loss, whether it be massive worry, whether it be a bit of excitement for some even. It is to talk a little bit about that experience with somebody, and then to share about the new emotions of the new context coming. There, perhaps a little bit of excitement, perhaps a bit of fear, perhaps a bit of concern. But it's really that emotional processing. After we have shared, we can listen, or vice versa, of course, with the individuals close to us, to really hear what their contexts hold, or their emotional experience. If you do this, you will find that the impact, the emotional experience of entering into the lockdown really goes a lot smoother. And if you're sitting with anxiety and worry, it will probably dissipate quicker than if you do not do it. So for good mental health, that is today's tip.